Hey everybody, welcome to the 2022 Oolite Arts Studio Residency Info Session. My name is Cherise Crockett and I am the Exhibitions and Artist Relations Senior Manager. Our studio residency application is back. Today I'll go over general information about the residency program, eligibility and requirements, and the application questions. A little later on, I will be joined by one of our current residents, Jen Clay, who will talk about her experience applying to the program as well as insight into her residency experience thus far. One housekeeping note, feel free to use the Q&A function to drop your questions throughout the info session. Let's jump right in. Next slide. For those who may not be familiar, Oolite Arts Studio Residency Program offers studio spaces at our Miami Beach location for visual artists, curators, and cultural practitioners working in a range of disciplines. In addition to engaging with a community of artists, institutional partners in Miami, and renowned curators, our residents are provided the space in which to develop their practice. Next slide. Let's go through the eligibility and requirements. You should apply if you're in need of space and time to develop your practice and are committed to actively engage in Oolite Arts programming. If you're able to commit to working in your studio 12 to 15 hours a week, very important. If you're able to commit to participating in exhibitions, public programming, studio visits, and our community outreach initiatives. And finally, if you're seeking to engage in Miami's artist community. The residency does not cover housing, travel, or visa costs. The studio space only. And I've received a few questions about the selection process. The applications will be reviewed by a 5-member jury of curators and arts professionals, not Oolite staff. If selected for the residency, the term will run from January 10th to December 15th, 2022. Next slide. Moving on to the application, it's very straightforward. Here's what we ask of you: your full contact information, a short statement of intent addressing why you want to join our residency program and what you hope to accomplish over the course of 1 year, a brief description of your practice or research, your CV or resume, work samples. You can submit up to 10 images, 10 pages of written material, or 10 video links of recent work. Finally, 3 references. We need the contact information for 3 people who know you on a professional level and can comment on your recent work and artistic development. I've gotten questions about the references. You do not have to submit letters, just the contact information for your references. Check out our professional development program for artists called Skills at oolitearts.org. There's a plethora of information that you may find helpful on subjects such as how to apply, how to write a CV, how to write project descriptions, etc. There's a lot of helpful information there. We'll drop the link in the chat if you want to learn more about our Skills program. Next slide. I'm so happy to be joined by one of our current residents, the very talented Jen Clay. Jen is a multimedia artist based here in South Florida. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you with us.
I'm so glad I didn't wear what I wore in this image.
One housekeeping note, please drop any questions you have for Jen and the residency in the Q&A. So Jen, tell us a little bit more about your practice.
Oh yeah, so my background is in sculpture. And for me, that means by any means necessary. So I've worked in a lot of different kinds of materials. But currently I work more in fiber and video making because that's more easy for me to store. And that's how I've kind of created a sustainable practice. I make costumes and textiles for installations and performances, and and also like claymation and video for video sake. And I'm trying to make like an alien-like encounter for people as a way for me to investigate how the uncanny helps to process trauma. And that's like my biggest interest.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
So it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, but it's great. I enjoy seeing you every day working in your studio. So Jen, tell us, why did you apply to Ulite Studio Residency Program? And if you can share a little bit about your experience with the application process.
Oh yeah, I'm about to tell everything. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
share it all. So I was looking back at my application, and I was really honest because at the time I was so lonely in my practice. And so part of my application was just describing how much I really wanted community, and how like I really thrive when I'm just engaging with people. I'm kind of hyper social. I think my spirit animal might be a golden retriever. So I do better around people. But my application process it's always really hard for me to express myself, and especially with writing. And I tend to want to throw, with every application, I want to throw out the baby with the water and start anew, which is like the worst thing to do. And so I started early, and I had applied previously. So I looked at that application and a previous application, and saw where I could maybe fill in gaps that I'd missed of information.
No, I think that's helpful. That's helpful to hear. How has working in this community been for you so far?
Oh yeah, so like just the word community is really what Ulite has been for me. I would say like enriching, like it's just fulfilled me in a way that I didn't realize like I was lacking. I feel like I've learned to be like a more generous artist from engaging with other people who are doing spectacular things in their careers, but they still like make time for me. Like a few months ago, Marielle and Gonzalo came into my studio to help me with pricing my work, because I'm now only just making work that is sellable, which I don't know if that's a word. Forget.
Yeah,
yeah, but it's just everybody is really kind. It's so different than previous experiences I had, and I hate comparing the two, but like just if anybody's been in a grad school or undergrad experience, and sometimes people will be they feel like they need to like square up at the other artists, or like be more like I'm the best. And at Ulite, everybody, it's really much more of a community where like people are receiving things, and they're like, and you can get that too, and let me show you how to get that. And it gives me like goosebumps. I hope I explained that well.
No, I think you just explained community and the value in having colleagues, artist colleagues right next door that you can run over and knock on the door and say, hey, can you come over for a second? I need help.
Yeah.
I see that happening all the time. So I'm glad you're speaking to the effect of that engagement on you.
Yeah, like literally, I remember my first day moving into Ulite, and I was anxious because I can be a lot, and and in the past, people have asked me to be a little less. And right when I moved in, I met you and Roscoe. And Roscoe, if in the channel, if people haven't met Roscoe, he's just a beam. He's just a shining light, and we're just like immediate best friends. And there really was no like cool kid club that like maybe I was a little worried about. I was like, oh, everybody's gonna be too cool for me and they won't want to like hang out with me. But it wasn't like that at all.
No, I mean, that's a really important point. I mean, for all of our residency programs, we really consider personality and really considering how people can best gel with one another. So the competitive spirit is great in your career, but in this instance, the community is what's so important, and that support that you receive from the community.
Yeah, if I can add something,
Sure.
like competition is amazing, but it's like more like I did cross country growing up, and I would always just try to do my personal best. And I always did better when I was running with somebody who was slightly better than me, who was stronger or faster, or didn't have asthma, and that I have. And so like in a way, like when you're an artist, you have to stay hungry. And like when you're with other people at like Oolite, they've made me hungry for things I didn't even know about. Does that make sense?
No, that's awesome. In fact, it makes me think, okay, I'm an avid sports fan. So I've been watching the Olympics, and what you just said, I don't know why, made me think of the Olympics and how they push each other to get to the next level. And it's a healthy dose of support, engagement, not necessarily competition, but kind of seeing where someone else is going and learning from that, because they're at a different point in their life, in their career. And the diversity that we bring to the residency program, I think reflects that. And you can gain a lot from being around our community or our artists.
Yeah, it's like having true friends who I can share in my successes, and they're not like sad to hear about my successes. It's a weird thing. I think a lot of artists have experienced that. But and I'm excited for other people. Like I'm like, yeah, we did it. All of a sudden it's we. Yeah.
It should be we. It should be we. That's so great. And it's extremely positive. And I think we need that kind of support and encouragement. I mean, we've all had a tough year and a half. So to have a community that is as closely knit as ours, considering social distancing and masking and all of our safety protocols, you guys have fought through and have forged really, really great relationships. And I've seen it just walking by and chatting with you guys. So I appreciate your sharing that. I have another question for you. Do you have any recommendations or tips for folks who want to apply?
Yeah, I wrote it down so I didn't forget. So I think that this is true for all applications, that I tend to apply to everything that I can possibly get. And I look at who, if they share the jurors, and even if they don't, I am motivated to apply, even though I know that I may never get that thing, but I'm motivated to apply for the jury's eyeballs, because there has been like instances of getting shows and studio visits because of an application. Like that in itself is like an opportunity for me. And I'm just like kind of like Pac-Man eating the little balls, like, I don't know, the energy balls, like that's just like, yum, yum, yum. And so that's like a motivation for me. And because I applications are hard, and you have to stay motivated. And
they're different.
Yeah, they're all so different. And so that's another thing, like, and I've been guilty of this when I was younger, and someone called me out on it, was don't don't just send out a generic application. It's kind of like if you were dating and you hit up a bunch of people and they knew that you weren't just sending it to them. Like it's like a little discouraging. So don't do that, or not discouraging, disappointing. Yeah,
Well,
don't do that.
Just calling back to the skills program that I mentioned earlier, there are some great videos on our YouTube channel. As I mentioned, how to write project descriptions, how to write a CV, but there's much, much more forming basically an artist toolbox. So I encourage all of you guys to check out our YouTube channel and our skills program to learn a little bit more. We bring in local artists to speak to whatever topic is at hand, and the information that they provide, I mean, it's a treasure trove. It's a great, great resource. If you're applying to this residency or any other type of application that you're applying to, I think there are nuggets in there that everybody can carry away with them and help them feel confident about the application that they will submit or have already submitted.
Yeah, I've definitely learned a lot. Yeah, just like the idea that collectors collect certain media, that was like, I didn't know that. Amazing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. There are all these little idiosyncrasies that if you're an emerging artist, you may not be aware of, or if you've been working kind of isolated in your studio and not in a community of artists, there is a lot that you can learn from being in residence with a group of artists, and especially our artists. Okay, I'm biased. We love our artists. They're fantastic, and we're so proud of each and every one of you. Jen, let's look. I see some questions coming in. Yeah, Jen, what did you want to say?
Oh, I wanted to say one more thing that's helped me is whenever I apply to something, I put all of my answers into one document to make sure that it flows and that like all of a sudden I'm not talking about like, I don't know, planets and I was talking about bread, like, I don't know, but to make sure that there's like links between ideas. Yeah, I feel like that's helpful.
I think that's a really smart tip. Just kind of organizing your thoughts and getting a little bit out of your head to put them all in one document so that you can see what the application reviewer will see. I think that's an excellent tip. Thank you for sharing that. As I mentioned, some questions are coming in. Junior asks, emerging local artists are welcome, correct? For sure. Please apply if you are an emerging artist, local. And let's see. An anonymous user asked, as opposed to describing the compliance requirements on the part of the artist, can you describe what service Oolite provides on the commercial side, for example? Is there publicity, exposure, traffic generating programs, etc.? Jen, jump in whenever you like, but I'll kick it off by saying that we have a strong staff team. We support our artists in all of their endeavors. In fact, I inquire quarterly about what you have coming up so that I can share that with our marketing team, and they have a strategy in promoting what's going on with you. Also, we bring in world-renowned curators and who conduct studio visits with our artists. And that engagement is super important. So yes, we do support our artists on multiple levels, not just with a free studio space, but through support of their programs. And, you know, just as Jen spoke to, the community of growing and bouncing ideas off of one another. But you could always walk into the office, text me, call me, email me, and ask questions about what kind of strategy you're interested in pursuing, and we'll seek to support you in any way that we can.
I think that, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think that like the realization of whenever you told me that you're all just art nerds, like that, like everybody at Oolite are just art nerds and they're just there and they just want to support you. And so like I personally need a lot of hand holding. Like just recently with Charisse, I was like, how do I send emails to ask for studio visits? Because that makes me really nervous. I don't like asking for things. Like that, those kind of things are amazing. Like you can just slip in and bother everybody in the office, and then they keep trying to tell you that you're not bothering them.
You're not.
This, yeah, I don't know, but this past December, Ulite combined some of the Ulite residencies with previous alums, right? Like with like with other artists, and we all went to the Atlantic Center, and it was just like, I don't know, in my mind it was like Care Bears, like, you know, where you're all just like friends, and we like it's been really cool. And then now we all go to each other's shows and support each other, and like I care about those people. And sorry, I went on a tangent, but with that, in December, Larry Osai Mensa came, and he gave a great talk and a worksheet and studio visits, and then followed up with a lot of us on Instagram. Like I've sold, like this past year for myself, I've never sold artwork before other than like commissions. And so like this was a whole pivotal year for me, and it was really facilitated by Ulite.
I'm so glad you said that. I mean, the past year and a half has been so tough with the pandemic, and you know, us not working our normal hours or being open or accessible our normal hours, that it's wonderful to hear that regardless of that, you guys still kept the incubator mentality and continued connecting. And Larry, who is a phenomenal curator, is just so personable and honest and ready to give feedback to artists. And I mean, I feel like there are no boundaries with him. And those are the kind of people that we want to work with, who are sincere in their support of artists and their guidance for artists, because we do want emerging artists as part of the program. I mean, this is a great incubator. Pricing, I've been harassing our residents about meeting with me to learn how to price their works, because I know that's a big boundary for a lot of people. But we forge ahead, and if there's something that you need within the residency, we will try our best to accommodate the request. And if it's new, I often think, as well as our senior staff team, they often think, oh, okay, that's a new question for us, so why don't we seek it out? Let's see what we can do in this arena. So thanks again for sharing that. There's another question. Ben asks, are there formal critiques among residents or studio visits? For sure, there are studio visits, including studio visits with talks, lectures, who we bring to Miami, or we used to bring to Miami in the spring and fall, 3 lectures each season. The formal critiques, they were formalized in the past, but in light of the pandemic, it's been difficult to get people together. So I've been kind of gauging how people feel about being in person, or if they want to do it over Zoom, but it's certainly something that we do. I think formal critiques are helpful, and informal critiques. I think it's always important for artists to get feedback on what they're working on, or getting answers that they may have not considered in the past, or just pushing through a wall that you may be encountering. I think conversation and engaging with our residents, and just knocking on someone's studio door, as I mentioned before, and saying, hey, can I talk to you? I'm struggling with this. I think that's really, really important. And it's definitely a part of the residency, and I think a critical part of the residency.
Yeah, a lot of the studio visits that like we have are much more informal, and it kind of just starts with like, does this spark joy? And like, how do you feel about this? And I really like sharing with other people how I know how to make things. I like having a transparent studio, and I pretty much like I'm a waiver. I'm from North Carolina and I wave at everybody. So if you ever come there and I'm waving, just like come in. Everybody's really friendly at Oolite. And when you have a studio there, you can be as public and engaging. You can drag people into your studios as much as you want. Or you can be as private as you want, and really you're kind of in control, and it's best to have like rapport with the people in the office, like Charisse, to really like ask or to like just bring up any issues you have and feel comfortable with that. I've never been a shy person, but so that's the end of that thought. Yeah.
That's an interesting and important point. I mean, we want the artists that are selected to get something out of the residency, and that kind of crosstalk is really important. And the exposure or potential exposure of you engaging with people just walking through the building, it's so important for your career. I mean, I've met artists who were early in their career and they weren't quite sure how to talk about their practice. So they kind of bumbled and fumbled. But then after 3 or 4 months, they're like, oh my gosh, I've had to talk to so many people and so many residents that now I know how to talk about my work. It's not this stressful labyrinth that I used to put it in. Someone comes in, they're like, hey, are you an artist? Yes, I am. Is this your work? Yes, it is. Tell me about your work. Okay. That kind of engagement is common, especially since we're located in an urban setting. I mean, there aren't too many residencies that are located in major cities, and we're right here on Lincoln Road. So the opportunity to engage with the public is great, as well as with our programming. We invite people in to exhibition openings that are often combined with resident nights, and our artists are often in their studios during their evenings, and you could just wander throughout the building and pop in, say hi, look at the work, ask about their residency experience, etc. So it's a great way to engage with the community, and I'm glad you brought that point up. Let me see. Wow, the questions are pouring in. Caroline asked, going forward, will Oolite require vaccination for all residents, and or is there COVID safety protocols already in place there for mask wearing? We do have COVID protocols, and in light of this recent spike in cases, we've asked everybody to mask up again, regardless of whether or not they're vaccinated. We do not ask if you, or we don't require vaccination at this point. Honestly, we're just following the CDC guidelines and trying to keep everybody safe. So there is social distancing, there is mask wearing. We ask that you notify us via a questionnaire as to whether you've been exposed to someone who's had COVID, or if you have a temperature, things like that, so that we can kind of get ahead of this if anyone has been exposed or think they've been exposed.
And you don't have to wear your mask in your studio while you're working. Everyone has their own working space. If you haven't been there already, which you should come. And like when you leave your studio space, which is more private, then you wear your mask.
Yeah, definitely.
And you let the office know if you're bringing anyone else in, and if
yeah. So all of that is clearly communicated to the residents via multiple emails. Thank you for your patience, as well as the rest of our residents. There's been a lot of correspondence as things change. The situation in Florida has changed quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, so we have responded accordingly. Let me see. Ben asked, hold on, Ben, where did you go? Okay, is the panel the same for the residency and Ellie's Creator Award? It is not. We invite different arts professionals and curators for each of our panels. And Caroline asks, can you have a combination of video and images for your application? Absolutely. We want you to submit whatever is pertinent to us and the jurors learning more about your practice.
I recently did was a part of, I do a lot of I do all the workshops, and I do all the creative capital workshops, and so recently there was a talk, I think, with Creative Capital where you should start with your best first in an application. Just pow, just best. And then and I know that's relative, but you know, out the gate, best first.
I agree. I mean, if you're considering a project or working on a project that you feel proud about and you feel that you want to apply on the basis of that project, please do. It's always important to put your best foot forward. And again, I'll refer back to skills. A lot of the content in our skills program on our YouTube channel speaks directly to how to put your best foot forward. So that's a good point. And let's see, I'm scrolling through the questions. Thank you guys. A lot is coming in. A lot are coming in. What does the jury look for when selecting a resident? What is the ideal type of artist for Oolite? I'm happy to say that we don't have an ideal type. Again, the jury reviews the applications, and they select folks who they think will fit best into our residency. But there isn't an archetype or one medium or another that we're looking for. So just put your best foot forward and apply your current project.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem.
In my past, I used to try to fit what I thought like a residency was looking for, and I through the years I got more comfortable just being myself and being really honest. And I feel like with Oolite, like I feel like you guys see that. You guys see when people are just being like, here I am, this is what my work's about. This might be really weird, but and you're incredibly accepting. Oolite will never tell you what your art should be about. No one will ever come in and be like, oh, well, we like this part, or we only like this half of your art practice. So I think that is very informative for knowing the application process better. Sorry, does that make sense?
No, I would never want to do that, and I know that none of my colleagues would ever want to speak in that way to an artist. I mean, you're in your studio space, you know, do what you need to do, follow your creative mind. If you ask for input on how something's going, or again, if you're kind of struggling or you need a little bit of guidance, if asked for it, we certainly will provide it. Dennis Scholl, who is our CEO and president, I mean, is a major art collector and roams the halls and pops into studios. And Jen, I've seen him in your studio multiple times. So he's a great resource just in terms of like guidance and direction. I mean, he's been a collector for many, many years and a passionate supporter of artists. So just the opportunity to engage with him and pick his brain, I think, is a treasure.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen Dennis in your studio and all of our artist studios, you know, just chatting, just hanging out. And I think that's one thing that I love about working at Oolite, that we have the chance to work with you guys in a very informal but formal way. Like, we're totally on your side, totally there to give support, totally there to pop in, say hi, and hey, what's going on? Need anything? That for me is a very fulfilling part of this job, that I get to talk to you guys, see your smiling faces every day, and just check in on you and see if you have any stresses or woes or concerns that we can help you with. Let me see. Junior asked how many spaces will be available for the residency in 2022. We have 5 spaces available. We will have 5 studios available at the end of this term, which ends in December. So there will be 5 artists selected. Let's see. There's another question from an anonymous viewer. Are there any restrictions on types of mediums like metalwork? We don't have any restrictions on who can apply regarding their media. However, keep in mind that we do not have facilities such as like a kiln or a jewelry studio or ventilation. So just keep that in mind if you're applying, that if you're working in that arena or in one of those arenas, you would have to complete the production of your artwork at a makerspace or a different facility, because we don't have those facilities at Oolite and can't accommodate those requests.
Yeah,
But in the future, we will in our new building, which we hope will be completed in the next 2 years. That's going to be a state-of-the-art facility, and we're all excited to move there and continue doing what we do now on Lincoln Road.
wow.
Yeah.
I'm that those
cool.
future artists will have it good. Yeah.
I mean,
we have it good now.
You guys have it good now, but
yeah,
it's going to be a whole different level. Yeah, I mean, a building built in 2022 or 23, after surveying artists and getting that feedback, it's a completely different history than where we are now, which is important and, longstanding. We've been here for what, 35 plus years. So it's time for a change. And I'm looking forward to being there to see how the new facilities facilitate our supporting artists.
To add to that answer, I don't think whoever that anonymous person was, I hope that they still apply, because like I tend to love places where I can weld and I can work with maybe like more, I don't know, everything. And so like you adapt to the circumstances, and it's really been, at least in my best favor, because sometimes I tend to like more complicated, like working with more complicated materials with more steps. And this past year I've been quilting, and it's been really great. I'm not saying that you should do that, but but you can. But there is a small area outside where you can do like sanding some wood. You can do small things. You can mix some concrete, but that's next to the dumpster, where people drive through. So it's not like huge amount of space.
Yeah, it's basically outside of the building. Actually, speaking to that, an anonymous user asked, I'm a printer, should I apply? I say yes. In fact, we have a print shop on site that may be used by our residents, as well as our alumni and our surrounding community. So definitely don't feel like there are restrictions to applying based on how you work or what you work with. And I think we've tackled most of the questions, if not all of them. Yeah, Jen, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you sharing your experience with our audience. I think it's important that artists who are considering applying to hear from someone currently in residence. So thank you for all of your tips and your insight. I think it's very, very helpful to the type of culture and community that we have built within Oolite.
Yeah, good vibes only. And anytime, thank you so much. I love Oolite. So I don't know if I'm biased, but that's my experience. And thanks for having me.
You are biased, as am I, but that is all good because it's a great program. So I'll see you tomorrow, and thank you again for joining us. I don't think we have any more questions. Yeah, it looks like we've gotten through all of them. But before we wrap up, next slide, I want to let you know that I'll be hosting office hours this Friday, August 6th, and next Friday, August 13th, from 12 to 3 p.m. each day. Sign up if you still have questions about the residency and or the application process. We'll drop the link in the chat for the office hours. Next slide. And finally, the deadline to apply is 6 p.m. on August 16th. Here is the link. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'll wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us and good luck with your application. Bye.